everyone. It is super cold and super wet, and there's a lot going on here, of course, because we're here at the Hockenheimring for the final showdown. We're super excited because it's the grand finale, and we've been waiting so long for finally the DTM meeting Super GT, and one of the superheroes of the Super GT is Jenson Button. We're excited that you're here driving as well. You're starting from pretty much in the back, but considering the fact that yesterday you were pretty fast, if the pit stop would have been maybe a little bit shorter, so with a better pit stop today, do you think today maybe it's possible to steal some points away?
Yeah, yesterday was a lot of fun. You know, starting near the front, it was in conditions that we could make the tires work, and the pit stop set us back, but it was fun fighting through from 15th to 9th, so I enjoyed that. Lots of wheel-to-wheel action. There's bits missing on the car today because we don't have any spares, but we'll do our best. But the biggest problem for us is this weather. We struggle to get tire temperature. Super GT, but especially this car, because the tires are made for a front engine car, so we don't get the front tires working and we damage the rears, so it's really, really tricky, but we'll do our best today.
I'm sure you will, and also, I mean, considering the fact that the weather is terrible, maybe we'll get a safety phase or something, so maybe you have a chance there.
Yeah, we'll see, but I think the weather is supposed to calm down halfway through the race. I really hope it does, especially for the fans here. You know, it's tough being here in this rain. It's great to see so many people here, even though it is pretty horrific conditions.
Looking around here, it looks like they're all coming to see you. So Jenson, it's fantastic having you. Best of luck for the race. Thank you very much, and now to the commentator.
Great to hear from Jenson Button, who is one of the Super GT stars that's gracing us with their presence this weekend, the final weekend of the season. Welcome to a rain-swept Hockenheim and the thousands and thousands of people that have made their way here to this extraordinary 4.5 kilometer circuit. It's about an hour from Frankfurt, maybe an hour and 30 from Stuttgart. They're all very welcome, and so are you. Looking forward to the 55-minute plus one lap race in conditions which are less than perfect, but we all know that drama can occur when weather conditions are challenging. Another one of the Super GT stars driving us who has experience of Hockenheim is Nick Cassidy.
All right, and now I'm here with Nick Cassidy from Super GT. You were Super GT champion in 2017. Now you're racing here with us in the DTM. So starting from P16, what do you think? Where can you go from here? And what are you expecting for the race?
Oh, firstly, I'm just really excited for my first DTM race. Yeah, awesome to be here this weekend. Obviously, my teammate drove yesterday, and I didn't do many laps in practice, so qualifying was a struggle, but just excited to get the race going.
And the weather, I mean, it's still raining, so anything is possible. Maybe that's good, right?
Yeah, sorry. What's that? Sorry.
All right.
Anyway, anything's possible.
Yeah. Didn't see that coming.
We'll give it a good shot and try our best.
Thank you very much, Nick. Best luck. Back to the commentator.
An extraordinary interruption there. Nick Cassidy, who is the best of the Super GT drivers with regards to qualifying, of course, raced here in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Nick Cassidy going from P16 on the grid. Pietro Fittipaldi, P21, right at the back of the pack for Pietro Fittipaldi. Grandfather Emerson Fittipaldi was on the grid yesterday, and there he is, the independent WRT Audi driver then in these really rather rotten weather conditions, and you can see right at the back of the pack for Pietro Fittipaldi. This, though, is the car of Ronnie Quintarelli for Nissan GTR Nismo, the GT500 car of Ronnie Quintarelli. His teammate Sugio Matsuda drove the car yesterday, but Ronnie Quintarelli in the car today, and very much looking forward to this DTM and Super GT race occurring here at the Hockenheim circuit. Of course, towards the end of November, we head off with DTM to Fuji with the dream race. So looking forward to that towards the end of November. At the sharp end of the grid this afternoon, Nico Muller will be going from pole position. Now, it was actually Mike Rockenfeller that set the best time, but he has picked up a 5-place grid drop. More about that in due course. This is Jenson Button then, the Honda NSX GT car, which is driven by, or engineered by Team Kunimitsu. And Jenson Button then, the driver of that car. Great to see Jenson here at Hockenheim once again. Of course, Super GT champion and former Formula 1 champion as well. And Kazuhiro Kojima, the team director for Honda Team Kunimitsu, there on the grid as well. So talked about the weather conditions plenty. Weather conditions were like this for qualifying as well, so all the drivers having to compete in less than perfect conditions. So at last the Super GT cars join the DTM cars, a dream come true, and the chairman of the ITR, the DTM organizers, is Gerhard Berger.
We have been waiting for this so long, and here's the man who has fought for this so hard, Gerhard Berger, the DTM boss. It's fantastic. I mean, finally DTM meets Super GT. So what does this weekend mean to you? And also, of course, looking at the Dream Race in November, what does it mean to you?
Well, yeah, that's one of our highlights, of course, this season, to come here and have the Japanese colleagues here with 3 manufacturers. That means having 6 manufacturers in the starting grid is great to see, and a great step forward. Obviously, unfortunately, we've been not too lucky with the weather, first for the fans, of course, but also our Japanese friends struggling with setting up the car under these conditions. So they should perform better than they are doing at the moment, and but that's related to this preparation for these weather conditions. But nevertheless, the fans are very happy to see them here. We are happy to have this first step done. In a couple of weeks we are in Fuji, and then we try to do this step 2.
That's going to be super exciting as well. And despite the terrible weather, I can only see smiles here. So I think you did everything right.
Yeah, but it looks like a December day, but it doesn't matter. Usually this weather gives good races, so let's see.
So let's see. Thank you so much, Gerhard Berger, and back to you.
Thank you very much. So Gerhard Berger then delighted with this cooperation, and of course he and many have worked hard to make it happen, and delighted we are as well. Team Director Lexus team there, as you can see on screen as we look at the Sheldon van der Linde BMW car going from P15 on the grid. I mentioned in the qualifying show his brother Kelvin is here. I spoke to him earlier on this morning. Kelvin van der Linde, of course, champion in GT, and he secured that championship just a week or so ago. So well done, Kelvin, here supporting his brother Sheldon van der Linde. Of course, another voice that we'll be hearing a lot of, courtesy of Super GT, is Amy, who we hear from now.
We have been looking forward to this race weekend for such a long time, because finally DTM meets Super GT, and Amy is with me. And Amy, you're hosting the Super GT in Japan, and now finally you guys are here racing with us. What do you think of this weekend so far?
Yes, René, that's correct. I'm hosting the Super GT right now. Yeah, I've been following the Super GT for the past 6 years now, first in the pits and now as English commentary, and it's like a dream come true for us. We've been dreaming about this like for such a long time. And it's like the very first step of new history, I believe. So I just wish it was a bit better with the weather, because we could have been much quicker in the dry condition. But well, still we hope the Japanese teams can, you know, do the best and show us what they got. And also we have the final of the Super GT race coming up in Japan in Motegi in the first week of November. So I hope you guys check in there. And also, you know, the Dream Race, I'm super excited about that, and yeah, so it's all of excitement today, and yeah, we'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be very exciting, and I love the rain because anything is possible, so it's definitely going to be exciting. And now, thank you, Amy, and back to the commentator.
Oh, thank you so much, Verena. Well, Amy will be winging her way up the stairs into our commentary position in just a few minutes' time to join me on the air. As we can see, Paul di Resta and Jenson Button renewing their acquaintance down there on the grid at the moment. And there is the number 62 car of Ferdinand Habsburg. Ferdinand Habsburg goes from P12 on the grid. And Jake Dennis, he could be a danger man in this race, going from P11 on the grid. His Aston Martin Vantage DTM car, the quali time of 1:52.242 for Jake Dennis. And Loic Duval with a very serious look on his face. So Loic Duval there, who will be going from P10 on the grid. His quali time was 1:51.994. The weather conditions are horrific. However, the race will be red hot. I'm sure of that. And as I say, Loic Duval will be going from P10 on the grid. And in due course, of course, we will get to the sharp end of the grid. And there once again is Emerson Fittipaldi here at Hockenheim as a guest, of course, of Pietro this weekend. welcome to Hockenheim. We are perhaps 1 hour from Frankfurt and 1 hour 30 from Stuttgart. 21,700 people here at Hockenheim, our resident. It's a quaint little town and it always welcomes the DTM with open arms. The track itself, some 4.5 kilometers, 16 turns, 6 of them left-handers, 10 of them are right-handers. Factor this in, some 44 gear shifts per lap, top speed, well, 295 kilometers per hour in good conditions, and it's far from those today. So there you can see, tens of thousands of fans have made their way into Hockenheim to enjoy the race action as DTM meets Super GT. Mike Rockefeller will be going from P6 on the grid. His time, a 1:50.800, was best for pole position. However, he had to take a grid drop, and that because of the totting up procedure under the warnings that he has received. And I have to say, like an Olympic athlete, Amy has sprinted up to the commentary booth. Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you, Dave. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you for calling me up here.
Oh, it's a great pleasure.
I had quite a run from the grids here.
And you're not even out of breath. I'm really impressed.
No, but seriously, this is like the as I said before, the very first step of a new history, I would say. It is happening. We've been dreaming about this for the past 6-7 years now.
I have to say, and this was a question I wanted to ask you, we have had so much excitement about this, and the anticipation, the sense of anticipation had been enormous. That's also been true in Japan, hasn't it?
Yes, obviously. I mean, I think a lot of fans are watching in Japan right now,
yes,
even though it's late in the afternoon or in the evening already.
Okay.
So, wow, I think excitement is there.
Yes.
And I just wish the weather was a bit better, you know. We could have done so much better for the qualifying on slicks, but, well, now we're here, so let's see what the Japanese Super GT cars can show us.
But I thought an extremely creditable performance yesterday. Jenson
Yes.
Button, P9 after all in the Honda, and it should be explained to everyone as we look at our pole sitter Nico Muller here that your Super GT drivers have had relatively little running here at Hockenheim.
We only had like 30 minutes each.
Yes.
On Friday, and it was, first of all, it was wet, and then in the afternoon it was kind of drying up. So all of the different conditions.
Yes.
So we didn't really had real practice, I would say.
Sure. And I spoke to Jenson just a while ago. I'll give you some more about that in just a moment. Nico Muller goes from pole position. Timo Glock is alongside him. Very much a danger man from P2. Then it's Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson ahead of Marco Wittmann and Mike Rockefeller, who of course did a time good enough for pole, but under the totting up procedure for warnings, he gets a 5-place grid drop. Then it's Philipp Eng and René Rast on the 4th row of the grid, ahead of Robin Freins and Loic Duval, who occupy the 5th row of the grid for this final race in our European part of the DTM season. Jake Dennis and Ferdinand Habsburg go from P11 and P12. Then it's Jonathan Aberdeen and Bruno Spengler, P13 and P14. Ahead of Sheldon van der Linde and the best of the Super GT drivers, Nick Cassidy, with a very good performance to put the car P16 on the grid. Ahead of Paul de Resta and Daniel Juncker-Deyer. Then it's Jenson Button and Ronnie Quintarelli from P19 and P20, and Pietro Fittipaldi bringing up the rear of the pack for the grid for the final race of 2019 here at Hockenheim. In my conversation with Jenson Button, Amy, he was explaining that, you know, the way the cars are set up with regards to, because of course you don't have controlled tyre in Japan, and he said getting temperature into the wet weather tyres has been proven to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, he just said it in my interview too. It's so tough, and it's so different from the Super GT in Japan. So, well, that's the biggest issue they're struggling with. But I think Jenson is the one who did kind of, you know, got to know the tires better because he has all the car for himself. He left his partner in Japan.
Yes, he did. It was jolly rude of him.
Yeah, well, he is going to drive in the Formula 1 at Suzuka at the free practice,
yes,
the Yamamoto, so that's why he couldn't make it.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Fairly good reason for that, isn't it? Of course, Jenson will do his level best, as will everybody else, but actually a very, very good performance from Nick Cassidy, who of course has experience here at Hockenheim.
True.
I can remember talking about Nick in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. He's a super guy and great fun, and I know he's very pleased with his performance, and he could be one to watch. And let's just hope that, you know, with safety car phases, all sorts of drama, Amy, it could all be very different. Cars are away on their formation lap. Let's go racing then, and we will do that right after this formation lap. But bear in mind, the car's going to be just checking out the conditions here with 2 formation laps, and the new race distance is going to be 52 minutes plus 1 lap, all because of the weather. Really slightly concerned, Amy, that the windows here in our commentary booth are beginning to steam up, rather.
Yes, I think that's me, because I ran all the way and I'm kind of sweating right now. And you can feel the excitement, you know.
You and I, of course,
I'm excited.
We're going to be working together in Fuji, and you welcomed me to the country with the open arms that I hope you've received in terms of our welcome to you here in Germany.
Yeah.
The weather conditions actually in Fuji, when we get to the dream race, are going to be quite similar to what we've got here, aren't they, in terms of temperature?
In terms of temperature, yes, but in terms of the weather, the rain, I don't think it's raining that much in November.
Excellent.
So, yeah, it's more dry, and obviously the air is cleaner than the wet condition,
Yes.
I hope. And yeah. It's
Well,
going to be better, I guess.
we are very much looking forward to it as we run through the grid again on screen for you. Now, you can see here what's also an impact for all these drivers, and this also applies to the Super GT drivers in equal measure to our DTM drivers as well. Perhaps more so, it will affect them more, and that is visibility, because of the spray coming off the back of the cars, Amy. I mean, that is a nightmare. You can see virtually
You
nothing.
cannot see at all, right? You need to that, like, blind driving, obviously. Well, so in the Super GT, if it comes to this much rain and this much, you know, splashes from the cars in front, okay, this is okay right now, but if it's get a bit more, then we will definitely have the safety car in the Super GT in Japan. They're pretty,
Yeah.
they put it in quicker than in the DTM, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. We were on board there with Ronnie Quintarelli, who was showing us that visibility from his perspective wasn't at that point too bad. But of course, the cars are not up to racing speed because they are behind this formation lap, 2 formation lap system that we have at the moment, with the new race distance cut down to 52 minutes plus 1 lap. Dr. Florian Kamelger, the team principal of R Motorsport, just out of shot there was the former head of Mercedes Motorsport, Norbert Haug, who's here this weekend as well. We're on board with Paul de Resta. And the lights on the left-hand side, or either side of his dash, indicate when the wheels are spinning. And, well, one very happy man there, of course, because Audi Sport Team Rosberg taking the team's championship yesterday, courtesy of this man's supreme performance. Look at the understeer René Rast had then, just as he gave it an absolute footful. This is the Parabolica running up towards the hairpin. One of the real pinch points on this Hockenheim circuit, and Audi, of course, supremely victorious, having taken all 3 titles, the Drivers' Championship, Manufacturers' Championship, and Teams' Championship as well. And there is Jens Marquardt from BMW, the Director of Motorsport for BMW, Jens Marquardt. Paul de Resta, he too heading up towards the hairpin. I think that's where we are. And yes, indeed, they're all the supporters and fans that have made their way into this Hockenheim circuit for the weekend. 4.5 kilometers, 16 turns of them, all of them a challenge, 6 left and 10 right. And well, we're on to the second of the 2 formation laps. Marco Wittmann, Mike Rockenfeller, Philipp Eng. Then we see René Rast. And there is our pole sitter, Nico Müller. Now, Amy, Nico Müller, of course, in the DTM Championship was pushing René Rast all the way to Nürburgring, and then he had a torrid weekend at the Nürburgring. So, of course, he wants to finish the season with a flourish and take the win here. As we can see, the discussions going on inside one of the Super GT garages. And I wonder if this is a problem for Paul de Resta as he's coasting the car, Amy, to a halt.
Oh,
well, it felt very different on the tyres. What a...
Please excuse Paul de Resta's colourful language, as he's had a torrid weekend as well. The new race distance is going to be 49 minutes plus 1 lap. And the reason I say that Paul de Resta has had a torrid weekend, I don't know if you saw this, Amy, but in qualifying, free practice. Final free practice.
Remember to stick, Paul.
A bracket on his steering column broke, which pitched him into the wall. So he really has had a rotten end of the season as Paul di Resta, which is such a shame. He makes his way out of the our Motorsport Aston Martin car, which has failed before even a racing lap has been completed. So
yeah, obviously not how you would want to end the season, right?
Of course not. So Paul then with real problems now. Just looking on the screen to see if that car has been got to safety, whether that's going to cause us a problem within the race start, as Nico Müller weaving from side to side, Timo Glock doing the same. Jamie Green is absolutely not. So there is Paul di Resta. Of course, his position on the grid means that advantages Jenson Button and Ronnie Quintarelli as well, because they'll they'll have a gap ahead of them, won't they?
Mm-hmm, they will have, yeah.
So the cars then making their way towards the grid. They're heading in towards the stadium section of the track now here at Hockenheim. So this, of course, a very different track to the track we're going to experience at Fuji, isn't it?
Very different. The Fuji Speedway is like a high-speed track. It's
yes.
Yeah, a lot of rhythm, a lot of ups and downs. So, wow.
Will you and I get an opportunity to run the track before the race weekend?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you might do 2 laps for my one, probably. The way you got up here. Don't think I'm gonna be any competition.
Well, yeah,
to you.
it's a long track, so.
Perhaps we'll cancel that plan now. What a silly idea of mine. So there the cars into the Sachs turn then, which of course is banked, and Nico Müller makes his way around the Sachs turn now, heading towards the starting grid. And well, 49 minutes plus a lap is the new race duration. Dieter Gas then, head of Audi Motorsport. There's Jens Marquardt, head of BMW Motorsport, and Dr. Florian Kamelger, whose day has gone from being okay to being very much worse now as we go into the Nissan Nismo garage. And there is Nico Müller and Timo Glock. Let's hear Nico Müller guided into his pit box now by his engineer.
So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go, 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 go. Stop. Perfect.
So Nico Müller then into his grid box as the rest of the cars make their way into their boxes too. And we are about to go racing. So there you can see directly ahead of Nick Cassidy. He has directly ahead of Jenson Button. He has a gap now because, of course, Paul di Resta is now missing. Right, here we go. The final race of 2019 in Europe for DTM. Let's go racing. So Timo Glock bolts down. Jamie Green also, and Marco Wittmann with an absolute flyer. So too Mike Rockenfeller. So as the cars make their way through turn number 1 for the first time of asking, Mike Rockenfeller and Timo Glock side by side. It's Marco Wittmann and Timo Glock side by side, but now here comes Mike Rockenfeller rejoining that almost 3 abreast battle as they go through turn number 2. So Nico Müller then trying to make haste his escape up the road. It's almost 4 abreast now as René Rast joins in the party. The DTM champion could be in P2 before we get to the hairpin. This is extraordinary driving from the DTM champion. Look at this. So Rocky around the outside, René on the inside. Timo Glock slides and clatters into Marco Wittmann. What a supreme effort from René Rast, who's now under pressure from Mike Rockenfeller. René will have the inside line though for this turn. What an extraordinary drive around the Parabolica for René Rast. He was just completely committed to that, and well, the DTM champion has got second wind when it comes to this race, and he wants to go out on a high. We've got a yellow flag in turn number 8. That looks like that's one of your cars, Amy.
Oh, that's Nick. Oh, that is Nick Cassidy. That's a 37, the LC500.
Oh, what a shame.
Oh.
And there was me having bigged him up so much at the start here. I was just so hoping that will mean that the safety car is called for. So Nick Cassidy, sadly, who was the best of the Super GT qualifiers, finds himself out of the race very, very early on. Safety car has been called for, and well, Nico Muller will find that safety car with the lights on. Now, I don't know whether that car is too damaged, because the debris you can see down there, it looks extensive, but actually it's only advertising boards. It's nothing too horrific, but Nick Cassidy is walking away from the car. He'll be bitterly disappointed, Amy.
Yeah, truly.
And this is how it happened.
Yeah, that was a touch.
Well, that looks like it's the car of Jonathan Aberdeen that he touched, or Jonathan Aberdeen touched him. And unfortunately, with grip conditions so difficult,
They said it's like skating, right?
Yeah, and actually he went backwards into the concrete wall first of all before hitting those marker boards. So let's see it from Nick Cassidy's on-board point of view. There was the touch, and that was enough just to unsettle the car, wasn't it? And well, perhaps it was. We know Nick Cassidy is a good driver who knows Hockenheim very well, and perhaps he just felt there was an opportunity for him there. Perhaps he shouldn't have been there. Who knows? But inevitably, without the touch, that means he wouldn't be in the position that he's in now. And there was a touch between himself and Jonathan Aberdeen. So that's a great shame, Amy.
It is. Well, I'm glad he's okay. He was walking away of the car, so yeah.
And we've got a red flag now. So the race has effectively been stopped. Now we're also looking, because Danny Juncadella is out. We just noticed that Danny Juncadella had gone down the timing screen, and that looks like a fire for Danny Juncadella.
That looks like a big fire. He is obviously out of the car, right? Yeah, good, very good, yes.
I would think so. And Dr. Florian Kamelger, the team principal of our motorsport, then looks on, and this is bad news. And, you know, unfortunately, and this proves the point, Amy, and actually reinforces what you've been telling us about Super GT in terms of getting together. Aston Martin, of course, new into DTM this year and had merely 90 days to prepare their cars between the signing of the contracts. And you know what? When you do something as quickly and try and be competitive straight away, you know, it does have an impact and an effect on the reliability. And I think it's fair to say that our motorsport and Aston Martin have suffered a degree this year with reliability. And already, look, before even even a couple of laps of the race have been done, unfortunately, two of the R Motorsport Aston Martin cars are out, and there is the Spanish driver Danny Juncadella, who all he can do is really look at his car and think, what if? But there we are. And, you know, professional racing drivers, Amy, what they have to do is pick themselves up from situations like that.
Yes,
but it's just a shame when it's the last race of the season for many of them. And Dr. Florian Kamelger, who, of course, has got to you know, shoulder and take responsibility and remotivate everyone. And there is another one of his disappointed drivers, Paul di Resta. We still don't actually know what was wrong with the Paul di Resta car. We heard him say it felt very funny.
Well, obviously for you guys, it's the last to final race. For us, we still have the final in Motegi.
Of course you do. Yes, of course you do. And there, the front end of the Aston Martin is being removed now by the marshalling team there before removing the car to a position of safety, which means that the red flag has been brought out. The clock has now been stopped at 45:40. We're being told that the restart will be at 13:54. So let's talk a little bit about the Super GT Championship before you head off to Motegi then, as we look at the replay of various things going on here, and that was Danny Juncadella bringing the car to a halt. That's eagerly anticipated, your final this year in Motegi.
It's in the first week of November.
Yes.
And the conditions are really, it is going to be cold, but very clean race, because we have this uniqueness of the weight handicap during the whole season, which stacks up. During like every race, you get some new weight handicaps, so you get heavier. And on the second last race, you get the half weight of what you have stacked up.
Yes.
And on the last race at Motegi, we have no weight at all, so it's a clear fight of all of the machines. So Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and the championship, there's still a possibility for a few cars to...
I was going to say, it's 4 or 5, isn't it?
It's more of, yeah.
Yeah. And how many cars will be on the grid for the championship final?
So that's another unique point because in Super GT we have the 300 class and the 500 class racing on the same track. So all in all, it's going to be 45 cars on one track. Yes. It is quite exciting because obviously the 500s are quicker than 300s, so they need to weave through the 300s once they overlap them. So it's like in WEC, you know.
Yeah, so they've got to get through the traffic, haven't they? I completely understand that. Right, the cars have been brought to a halt then on the grid. We have got a red flag, and restart, we are told, is going to be at 13:54. So all the engineers rush onto the grid then, and what a dramatic start to the final race of the season. DTM, nothing if not entertaining, that's for sure. Let's hear from Dr. Florian Kamelge, who must be bitterly disappointed. Let's hear from him now.
All right, so let's find out what the issue is with Aston Martin. Dr. Florian Kamelge, first of all, Daniel Juncadella, what happened with his car? Why was it burning and fuming?
I only know what you guys know. I saw the pictures. We had him saying on the radio, something's burning. I stopped the car and get out of the car, and he said he reported he's all right, and we could see him standing outside. So thank God he is out of the car, and everything else we don't know.
Okay, so we'll find that out later probably. And also Paul de Resta, you also lost his car in the beginning. What was the issue there?
It seemed to be something with the engine. He said something with the engine is wrong. I stopped the car, and that's, again, not a thing which we had to investigate further on.
All right, well, thank you very much. Best of luck for the other 2 cars you have in the race. So when we get going again, best of luck. Thank you very much, and back to the commentator.
Thanks, and well done, Verena, for getting hold of Dr. Florian Kamelge then, as Danny Juncadella's car is, well, look at that. In terms of putting out the fire, it makes a real mess of the car, doesn't it? And Paul de Resta, then all we know is that it was an engine fault of some description. Dr. Florian Kamelge is able to offer us no further information. Jamie Green is under investigation for leaving the track and including an advantage. Well, we'll see if Jamie gets a penalty for that. So what we've got now is, where are we? Local time is 13:47:30, and the race is going to restart at 54. So don't know whether it was turn 1 where Jamie Green was under investigation for. Lots of the cars run, of course, wide in turn number 1. And Sven Stopper here, the race director, Amy, I'm not going to say he turns a blind eye to turn 1 in the first lap, but in the normal race conditions, turn 1, everyone runs wide to avoid contact. And I think he's certainly more lenient through turn 1 at the start of the race. So it's only conjecture on our part that that's where Jamie Green is being investigated for. So Nick Cassidy out. That means that we have Ronnie Quintarelli and Jenson Button remaining. Ronnie Quintarelli P17 when the race was stopped. Jenson Button P18, and there we can see the back end of the Honda car of Jenson Button.
It's the very last row, the 2 Japanese cars.
Well,
I hope they're gonna, catch up a bit. But the conditions, as said, the tires are so different than the ones in Super GT. So we're learning out of this race, and I hope for all the best. And it is so sad to see those cars being fished out.
Yes, but it's only one. And with due respect, Amy, I don't think that was Nick's fault, actually.
Wasn't.
So, so when it comes to Super GT and the DTM, you having watched the race yesterday, of course, and you saw 1 or 2 penalties put into the system yesterday. How does this differ to the way Super GT is controlled? Are your race directors hard and fast and rule it with a rod of iron?
They are much harder on regulation, I would say. No, because in Super GT, we're not allowed to touch.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all. You will get a penalty if you touch them. So you need to make your way out of the, touches and then overtake.
Right.
So it's a bit different, and that's what Jenson said yesterday in the press conference, that he really enjoyed the touching, actually, because he never gets to touch.
Because he can't do that.
Yes.
Well, Jamie Green is going to have to give a position back to Joel Eriksson. Here's a replay of the start, Amy, and you can see that Timo Glock really bogged down. So too a number of other drivers, including Jamie Green, but once the rocket ship start from, look at Marco Wittmann, and all the way around the outside of Timo Glock. Now that's it, Amy, what I was saying about how Sven Stopper takes a lenient look at turn number 1. This man, though, that we're on board with now, René Rast, my goodness me. Look at him just weaving his way through so many cars. And then, look, to the inside here, he's got the perfect line and just lets all the other cars run wide, and he's in a position where he's able to build momentum and build momentum and build momentum. And then when they enter the parabolica, he puts it between almost Mike Rockefeller and Jamie Green. Then he's got Marco Wittmann ahead of him. Jamie Green still on his left-hand side. But now on the parabolica, boy, doesn't René get going. Everyone seems to open up in front of him, and he says, thanks very much. There's a big hole there, and it's an Audi size. I'm going through. Mike Rockefeller on the outside as René now was able to scrub the speed and make the hairpin turn. Very, very well indeed, and he swore you could see the car just stepped out at the back end. And that was, I have to say, sublime driving from the DTM champion.
Amazing, like seriously. I don't think we get that in Japan. Because with this visibility...
and that was the situation with Nick Cassidy and Jonathan Aberdeen, which spat Nick, first of all, look into the concrete wall and then into the marker boards, and that unfortunately did for his race. So as we're looking at all the incidents, you can see it there from a different angle, and good avoidance there by Jenson Button, who just kept well out of the way of, at that point, still spinning Nick Cassidy. There was the touch. Nick was straight on with the opposite lock, but the cars are so vulnerable in these conditions, whether this is a Super GT car or a DTM car. Once you've lost the grip, that's it. You're merely a passenger, aren't you?
It's a shame for him.
Of course it is, but Nick is perfectly okay. And this might also be, as we look now at the Danny Juncadella car, that really was billowing smoke, wasn't it? So Danny was thankfully out of the car and all perfectly okay as the safety crews were straight onto that car and getting that into a position of safety. And this actually was an earlier incident. This was earlier than the Danny Juncadella failure. It was Paul di Resta who sort of gliding to a halt, really, in a very serene fashion right at the start of the race, and he just parks the car up and utters some colourful language on the team radio.
You never get to hear that in Japan.
No. And then, of course, the red flag, which brought the race to a close. So there we have it. We are a couple of minutes away from the restart of the race. I suspect that the duration might be reduced a bit, but that will be down to race control to decide. So we're Philipp is under investigation, infringement of the 3-minute rule. So Philipp under investigation. So that presumably is with regards to engineers being on the grid for a period of time between the restart. Ronnie Quintorelli we're on board with here, the Nissan Nismo car. So the best of the BMWs is Marco Wittmann, who is P4, Jake Dennis for Aston Martin in P11, and there is a damaged Danny Juncadella car, and best wishes offered to Nico Muller's car. Very often see engineers being quite so emotional about a car, Amy, do we? Very lovely.
Maybe.
So no Indianapolis restart. Ordinarily, you see, when it comes to a restart, Amy, we put the cars side by side, but that is not going to happen.
Oh, it's not, because I kind of enjoyed it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It's brilliant, right?
Love it.
That was amazing. I've seen it before, but what a shame.
Yeah, I'm all for showbiz in racing, but unfortunately, in these conditions, that's not going to happen. The cars will be one by one behind the safety car. So 45 minutes, clock is ticking down now, so there Jenson Button then, who is currently at the back of the pack, but only currently. It may not stay that way. And
I hope so.
No, absolutely. He'll he'll fight, and as was proven yesterday, to finish in P9, it was a supreme performance from Jenson Button, who when he jumped out of the car, Amy, he was just so elated. He just loved it.
Yes, he loved it so much.
Also under investigation for that 3-minute rule is Pietro Fittipaldi, as we're on board with René Rast now, who lightning quick at the start of the race, and of course his arch enemy when it came to the championship is ahead of him, Nico Müller. And for pride, if nothing else, Nico Müller will want to stay ahead of René Rast, because of course he lost out in the championship to René, who has been clearly superior, as the cars take varying lines around the hairpin there. And we are behind the safety car, but the safety car is going to come in at the conclusion of this lap, so we will go back to racing. And René, of course, as champion, he's done everything he needs to do. He'd still like to win. He'd like to win the final race, wouldn't he?
Yeah, would like to, and maybe throw some more shoes, I guess. Did you see that yesterday? He threw his
extraordinary.
That was amazing. I've never seen that before.
Having a conversation with him, and he was saying about how, because he's very, very big on social media, and he listens and communicates with his fans very well indeed. And he'd asked his fans what he would like, what they would like done at the end of the race. You see, and it said, well, maybe your gloves, maybe your boots. So where does it stop, René? Your fire suit, your socks. I mean, what?
Yeah. And I mean, he did even tell the the staff for his weight to after the race. They weigh the weight.
Yes.
So he didn't have shoes, so they needed to minus the shoes, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right.
All for the fans. That's
absolutely
incredible.
It's it's showbiz, isn't it? We've got to entertain, and entertain we do as Super GT join us here for the final race of the DTM season. And here comes Nico Müller and René Rast. And René has anticipated really rather well when Nico was going to give it a footful of the loud pedal as we go back to racing again. Nico Müller just 4/10 ahead of René Rast as they break away by about a second ahead of Mike Rockenfeller in these really rather horrible conditions. And in comes Ronnie Quintarelli, I believe, straight into the pit lane. We can see from our commentary position, sure enough. Well, what's happening here is rolling of the dice in terms of strategy. And they go to work on the Ronnie Quintarelli car, but I think there's going to be a potential overtake here at the end of the Parabolica as René Rast, who must be able to see absolutely nothing because he's right behind Nico Müller. This is so close. Nico Müller then makes the car as wide as possible, which of course is his right to do. René will now probably try and get underneath, but Nico prevented even that happening. So René now is really pushing Nico Müller for the lead of the race, and Nico saying, I'm having none of it. He retains that P1 position. So P1 Nico Müller, P2 René Rast, P3 Mike Rockenfeller. Pietro Fittipaldi gets a drive-through penalty for the infringement of the 3-minute rule, so his P16 has gone for a Burton now, hasn't it? We wait to see if Jamie Green, who was under investigation for the same issue as Loic Duval and Philipp Eng, do battle here. And Philipp Eng gets a drive-through penalty for that infringement of 3-minute rule as well. So, of course, Jamie Green was under investigation for something else. It was leaving the track, wasn't it, gaining an advantage, and he had to give the position back, and now he's on the inside of Joel Eriksson. So my apologies there, getting in a muddle with the penalties that have been awarded. So both the cars of Philipp Eng and Pietro Fittipaldi having to come in for a drive-through penalty for breaking that 3-minute rule, and Philipp Eng dives in right now to take his drive-through penalty fairly early on. And Ronnie Quintarelli then, who's been in for his mandatory stop, finds those cold tyres, those cold wet weather tyres, even more difficult to deal with as Joel Eriksson and Loic Duval. Wittmann and Glock, no further action for them for leaving the track and gaining potentially an advantage. So the order is Müller, Rast, Rockenfeller, Wittmann, Glock, Green, Eriksson, Duval, Freins and Jake Dennis, the best of the R Motorsport Aston Martin cars. JB comes in as well, Jenson Button then. Oh, and that was a vastly superior pit stop to yesterday.
Well, yesterday that was an issue, the rear right tire got stuck, so wow.
8.8 seconds, that's
that was
good.
Quick. Ooh. Nice work, guys.
Yes, well done. JB could be one to watch come the end of the race, and that's only 39.5 minutes away, plus a lap, because of the safety car and other such dramas that we have had, including the race suspension with a red flag. So Muller, Rast, Rockenfeller, Wittmann, Glock, Green, Ericsson, Duval, Freins. The order in have been Jenson Button and Ronnie Quintarelli for their mandatory stops. Of course, with Super GT, Amy, you normally have drivers that change as well as not only the...
We do have fueling and tire change and a driver's change, because we share the car with 2 drivers, sometimes 3 drivers. So it usually goes up to 35 to 40 seconds.
Which is still lightning quick, isn't it?
It is super quick. That is super quick. And the teams which are here right now are probably the quickest in the Super GT 500s, I would say. So, yeah, I think they got used to the DTM driver stop, to the pit stop, I guess.
They've done really well.
They've done
really well. So, René Rast on a 1:55.502 is really pushing Nico Muller now. He was much quicker, as now we've got a whole gaggle of cars coming in. We've got Mike Rockenfeller.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of cars in the pits.
That's huge. Look at this. Mike Rockenfeller, Marco Wittmann. I can see Robin Freins. And there are a number of others as well. Sheldon van der Linde is one of those. Jake Dennis.
Martin is coming.
There is Jake Dennis. Also in is Fittipaldi. Is Wittmann going to get him? No. There's Timo Glock. Crikey, if you were stood there with a car park ticket machine at the end of the pit lane, you'd have done all right. This one, wouldn't you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars came in that little sweep. And out they go again. So, Mike Rockenfeller ahead of Marco Wittmann, then it's Timo Glock, and there is the number 21 car of Pietro Fittipaldi, who of course has not taken his mandatory stop. He's been in for a drive-through penalty. So, drivers on the new wets. This could change the shape of this race, as the cars are on the Parabolica now, and Marco Wittmann is under investigation for an unsafe release. Now, I think that... of course, what they were trying to do was undercut Mike Rockenfeller, I think, from my memory. So, basically, they released Marco Wittmann in the hope of getting past Mike Rockenfeller in the pit lane. Didn't work, but whether he is under investigation now for a potential unsafe release. We'll see what the race control think of that. Let's have a look here. We can see it. So, who was he unsafe released into the path? Oh, well, there you go. It was... he did touch Jonathan Aberdeen.
That was close. Oh, he did touch, obviously.
Yeah. So let's see it from this.
Oh.
Oh, well, that's a slam dunk, isn't it? There's no question about. There's no need for the investigation.
There was proof.
Rast has got past Nico Muller. No, Nico Muller is in.
Really good place.
Nico Muller has come in. So yes, René Rast has got past him, but the reason for that is Nico Muller has come in for his mandatory stop. Oh no! One of the engineers slipped over.
Track is clear. Go, go, go. And Fittipaldi had a drive-through. Might be possible that you meet them.
Now, that engineer slipping over. We talk about the conditions, of course, for the drivers. Well, the conditions are not very nice for the engineers either.
As well, yeah.
Cool. I can remember a DTM race in Budapest when the rain came down, and my goodness me, it became an absolute skating rink in the pit lane, and that poor engineer there just falling over, and that added a couple of seconds to that pit stop. And sure enough, I said it was going to be a slam dunk. Marco Wittmann gets a drive-through penalty, so that's the end of his final race, Amy. So there he is, ahead of Loic Duval. Of course, Marco Wittmann stopping on lap 5, Loic Duval stopping on lap 6. So Loic Duval desperately trying to generate some temperature into those wet weather tyres.
You know, talking about Duval, obviously the fans in Japan, they are cheering for him too, because he used to drive in the Super GT for a long time. Yeah.
And he's a lovely guy.
He is a lovely guy, yes.
So Loic Duval, one of the Super GT fan favourites, and former champion.
Yeah.
And there is Timo Glock. Timo and I have this this saying that we say, because Timo once said in interview that it was with his big battles with Gary Paffett, I am the old man's of the championship.
Okay, we are overcutting Müller.
Here
All
comes
other
Rast.
people have pitted already. Slow pit stop Müller. 23 laps to go.
So, Audi Sport Team Rosberg need to go to work and work well on this pit stop for René Rast, for him to be able to undercut Nico Müller. 7.2.
The only one who hasn't pitted is Jamie Müller on start finish. Now,
here comes Nico Müller. Now, Nico Müller, of course, Amy, he's had a lap or so, hasn't he, to put some temperature into the tyres. René has not. Green, Ericsson and Spengler are all in clean air on the track. Well, that will make a big difference because visibility is better. As we watch this battle, we hear from Danny Juncadella, who sadly has had to retire from the race.
So now let's find out from Danny Juncadella what happened. We talked to Dr. Kanege earlier, and he didn't know what happened, but by now I'm pretty sure you have some sort of explanation for the incident.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a weird noise in the engine before the start, but took the start as normal. The start was good, was actually very good. And into the first corner, everything was okay. As I approached turn 2, I saw an alarm on the dashboard. I couldn't really hear much because you have a lot of cars around you, and then I heard that the engine was off as a security mode, but I think it started burning. I don't know the reason, but something major broke in the engine and it started burning, so I had to pull to one side. It's not the best way to finish the year, but yeah, we need to analyze what happened because it's the second race in the wet that I had to retire the car after 2 corners. It's the same issue, I think, so we need to analyze.
All right, thank you so much, Daniel. And back to you.
Well, Danny Juncadella then. What a fight going on here between René Rast and Nico Müller. René Rast there, just grip. Very, very difficult for him. And Nico Müller, oh, and you could see the back end of the car whale-tailed there, Amy, but he managed to hold on to... Oh!
It's like floating. With
well, that's
obviously new tires, yeah.
Obviously, René's experience, he was able to hold on to that, and, well, a scary moment. So, they will continue to battle, I have no doubt. But for the moment, Nico Müller is ahead of René Rast, ahead of Mike Rockenfeller and Timo Glock. And I'm talking about the drivers pre-pit stop because those that have not stopped yet are Jamie Green, Joel Eriksson and Bruno Spengler. So effectively, they're P1, 2 and 3 for Audi, BMW and BMW. So Eriksson and Spengler P2 and P3, Jamie Green for Audi. So our calculations are that we need around about 40 seconds in and out in terms of the pit stop as Jake Dennis here sliding into the side of Loic Duval, one of the Super GT fan favourites, and there the reaction from Mr. Danny Juncadella, who once again you can see his shaver is broken. So there is Jake Dennis ahead of Loic Duval, and Mike Rockenfeller now putting himself ahead of René Rast. So here comes Mike Rockenfeller on something of a charge now. So Mike Rockenfeller ahead of René Rast. Now pre-pit stop, or discounting the 3 that have yet to stop for their mandatory stop, it's Müller from Rockenfeller from Rast now, P1, 2 and 3. It's actually P4, 5 and 6 in the race, but that is, of course, because we've still got mandatory stops to come for the likes of Jamie Green, Joel Eriksson and Bruno Spengler.
Well, speaking of Mike Rockenfeller, he is coming to the Dream Race.
Indeed.
Happening in November. I am super excited to have him race on the Fuji Speedway track because he said it's his first time there.
And Mike.
His first time.
Mike will thoroughly embrace it and enjoy it, and, as we all will. And from a spectator standpoint,
yes,
we are so looking forward. As we can see, this is how Mike Rockenfeller got ahead of René Rast. From a spectator standpoint, you know, how have the Japanese fans locally been in terms of anticipating this event with the DTM cars coming to join Super GT for this dream race?
I must say, tickets are selling so well right now.
Brilliant.
Yes, and we are, I think, expecting many people at the track, and it is you know, it's a season where not many races happen. It's after the final of the Super GT, so I guess we'll have so many fans at the track. And as you know, the Japanese fans, they are really, yes, they are, I would say. I mean, they wear everything of the teams.
Yes.
They get those mini cars and let the drivers, you know, sign it, or they have all the pictures to sign, and they're so motivated into, you know, and dedicated to the motorsport I'm seeing in Japan. So it's going to be different than the one in Germany, but still massive, I would say.
And one thing that, a bit like DTM, that Super GT is renowned for is the fan-friendly nature of the whole paddock. It's like here at DTM, and that's something that has been developed over the last few years, that everyone really wants to embrace the drivers, and of course they are their heroes. Before we speak about that, let's hear from one of your drivers, sadly out of the race, the Super GT driver, Nick Cassidy.
So I have another driver here who sadly had to retire, Nick Cassidy. Talk us through what happened from your point of view. What happened?
Yeah, it's sad. It sucks. I just touched with an Audi maybe.
Jonathan Aberdeen.
Okay. No, I mean, it didn't really matter who it was. It was not really his fault. Just one of those things. First lap in the rain. Obviously, on the inside line, it's on the rubber, and I kind of expected to have a bit more grip than I did. Ran wide and touched with him, and it spun me around, so the race was over pretty quickly.
Very unfortunate. Thank you very much, Nick. And back to the commentator.
That was very humble of Nick, saying, do you know what, it wasn't his fault at all, it was down to me, I didn't have the grip that I thought I would have. So very humble of Nick Cassidy. So back to what I was saying then about the fan-friendly nature of Super GT that we can expect at Fuji. The drivers are the heroes, aren't they? And the fans really embrace them.
They are the heroes. They're like superheroes for them. Seriously. We have at the pit walk, you can't walk straight through the fans, you know. It's such a crowd, and wow. And you know what? We also have the race queens, we call them.
Oh,
so they're like get back to the race maybe.
This is Timo Glock. Timo Glock, who well, he wants to finish with a flourish this season because he's had a very up and down season, this Timo Glock. And René Rast and Timo Glock having a bit of a fight here. I wonder whether René is struggling with this car following his mandatory stop, because, you know, he has... Oh, you can see the back end of the car step out of René Rast then, and he is significantly slower than Timo Glock, looking at the timing screen. So Rast is, I think, driving through perhaps something of an issue that he has with this car, because up the road, Nico Müller and Mike Rockenfeller have completely and totally disappeared. They're not even in the same camera shot now. So basically, Rast is trying to make the car as wide as possible to prevent Timo Glock from coming through. But thus far, he's been able to do that. So René Rast, who's showing as being in P6, is actually P3 in real terms when you factor in that Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson and Bruno Spengler have to stop for their mandatory stops. Got 26 and 3/4 minutes left in the race, plus a lap, of course. And René Rast for now. I wonder whether there's an intermittent problem that he's finding with the car, as Nico Müller then is skating his way around, and so too is Mike Rockenfeller. So, Amy, back to race queens.
The
Did you
race
see?
queens, yes, we call them race queens. It's like the grid girls.
Yes.
We have here too, from Post. But they have all the costumes from the team, and it's something special and unique for the Super GT series, and yeah, I think you will enjoy it too, I guess.
I think I probably will, yeah.
I mean, it's good to have more, you know, female women on the track, because it's said to be a male sport. So, which I am also glad that you guys called me up here as a female commentator, which is not usual in Japan yet.
Oh, right. Well,
yeah.
You're doing a very good job, and of course, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've had the benefit, of course, of having the single-seater W Series as part of the DTM support package for much of the season. The first female-only racing series, the W Series, which has been so successful in those Formula 3 cars.
There was one Japanese girl driving
Indeed
too.
Indeed so. I met her a couple of times during the course of the season. This is Robin Freins that we're watching now, and René Rast then, who is still ahead of Timo Glock, and There you can see over the last 3 laps, the gap between René Rast and Robin Freins, as Robin Freins is closing in on the back of Timo Glock. Now, theoretically, it would appear that René has upped his pace. I think there's 2 things in play here. Number one, he's got the tyres into the window of working, but I'm not convinced that he dropped so much, whether there was a problem at some point, because when you compare René Rast's time of 1:53.591 of that of Nico Müller, a 1:52.559, the difference between the 2 of them is absolutely enormous. Jamie Green, Joel Eriksson and Bruno Spengler are P1, 2 and 3 at the moment because they have not stopped, and Jamie Green is some 2.4 seconds ahead of Joel Eriksson. Now, we were saying that theoretically 40 seconds is needed for pit in and out. At the moment, the gap is 36 seconds. So there's still some work to do for Jamie and for Joel Eriksson and for Bruno Spengler to try and get onto that gap, as I think I can see from the corner of my eye, Ronnie Quintarelli has come into the pit lane once again. So sure enough, a strategic move here from the...
Yeah, I think he's learning.
Of course.
I mean, he has not driven the car on wet tires at all before the qualifying. Did you know that?
Good grief, really?
Yes, that was his first run during qualifying. Because it was Matsuda, his teammate, doing the wet tires on pre-practice.
Yes.
So that is quite a big deal, I guess. It's like a shakedown, you know, for him.
Absolutely. And of course, this is also very, very important, isn't it, ahead of the Fuji race, to get the measure of this, as in now comes Bruno Spengler. So from the P3 position, in comes Bruno Spengler. We've got 23 minutes plus a lap remaining in the race, and Spengler comes in.
We are racing for the top 10. We will stop you into a gap between Dennis and Duval around place 9. You will have about 5 seconds gap to Duval behind to warm up tires. Go, go, go.
So Bruno Spengler is released from the pit lane.
It looks all right. This has 500 lower coals than the previous one. We expect it to get a little bit drier. Watch the white line, watch the white line.
Well, engineer interestingly saying there we're expecting it to get a bit drier.
Interesting.
Different radar to the one I've got, friend. However, you know, it's certainly not going to make any difference, because the ambient temperature is such that the, you know, with 22.5 minutes plus a lap, you know, the track is not going to change dramatically, I would have suggested. And there you can see the visibility is still absolutely at a premium. Now, Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson both stay out at the moment. Here comes Bruno Spengler then, and as they said, they would slot him between Jake Dennis and Loic Duval, and that's exactly where they have put him. And Jake Dennis then and Bruno Spengler. Jake Dennis in the number 76 R Motorsport Aston Martin car, running in that P9 position. And Loic Duval just entering the hairpin now as Jake Dennis makes his way down towards turn number 7, which is taken absolutely flat in these DTM cars, before heavy braking for the left-hander, which is turn number 8 into the arena section of the Hockenheim circuit here. So there is Bruno Spengler desperately fighting to get temperature into those tyres to hold on to that position. And out comes now Jonathan Aberdeen.
Okay, everything looks fine. Seems to still have the issue. Pit and we stop.
So we're there's Ronnie Quintarelli then back out again. All of this very, very good learning curve, isn't it? And
it is.
as you said, I not realised that Sugio is the one that, of course, had the benefit of the wet running. So Ronnie then is a real baptism of fire for him, isn't it?
Well, but for us, it's good to take the data back, get ready for the Dream Race in November. Because obviously in Super GT, usually we have the tire war, we call it. So it's 4 different manufacturers. But here it's just one make race. So yeah, we are learning and picking up a lot. And I hope we do all the best with the Hankook tires and Fuji then.
It was something that Jenson was saying, that, you know what, you think you just bolt another set of tyres on the car, but it's not that.
There's something wrong.
The whole geometry of the car is set up around the tyres that your teams have chosen to use.
It is. It's really the last few years of Super GT, the core is really the tyre, we say, because without the tyres, the car doesn't run, right?
Sure. Well, Jenson is running in P15 at the moment. And just holding on to the car there through turn number 1 as we're on board with him right now. Race being led effectively by Jamie Green, but not really, because of course Jamie Green has still got to come in for this stop, and so too has Joel Eriksson. So the real leader of the race is Nico Müller ahead of Mike Rockenfeller and René Rast, who's running in P3 ahead of Glock. Then it's Freins, Dennis Spengler and Duval. So this is Marco Wittmann, who of course has had to come in for a drive-through penalty, and has been in and served that penalty, and is back out and running in that P12 position. And there you can see illustration of the damage when he was unsafely released, and here we can see it once again. And just as the car is released, so too Jonathan Aberdeen turns in. Gadunk. I always feel, Amy, a little bit sorry for the drivers, because it's not the driver's responsibility when they're released.
No, it's not. Well, but it's part of teamwork, I guess.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's a package.
Win and lose as a team.
It can happen.
You win and lose as a team. Jamie Green, then, is the current lap times are in the 53s. 153.150 for Jamie Green. Nico Müller is in the 153.0s. And Joel Eriksson 154.013, who's P2, and Jamie Green has got something like a 4-second margin over Joel Eriksson currently. And we're into the final 20 minutes of the DTM race, the final race of the season, before of course we head off at the end of November to Fuji for the Dream Race. Super GT and DTM cars in Fuji. So looking forward to that. Whoa, as Jamie holds onto the car, the back end stepped out, and he, of course, Jamie, hugely experienced racer, holds onto it beautifully, and it is Jamie Green that is, well, he's undeterred, and he's certainly not coming in for his mandatory stop at the moment. Here is Nico Müller, then, who is in P3, but actually is leading the race, because Green and Eriksson have got to come in. So Nico Müller, who's lapping in the 153.0s, the 153.017 last time around for Nico Müller. This time around, it's a 153.283. So he's dropped a couple of tenths. So Jamie Green on the Parabolica now, ahead of Joel Eriksson and Nico Müller and Mike Rockenfeller and René Rast and Timo Glock for BMW. The best of the Aston Martin R Motorsport cars is Jake Dennis, who is running in P8, but that becomes P6 when Green and Eriksson come in. So at last, some joy for Aston Martin, perhaps, having lost 2 cars right at the early stages of this race. And of course, sadly, we've lost the Super GT driver, Nick Cassidy, who was very humble in saying that it was down to him. So Jonathan Aberdeen, we thought we heard on the team radio that maybe he'd got a fault with that WRT Audi, and well, perhaps that fault is continuing. So Jonathan Aberdeen really struggling this afternoon, which is a great shame. He's been something of a qualifying star during the course of this season. And Jamie Green then continues on his way. It's DTM. We're live from Hockenheim. It's Dave and Amy from Super GT here to bring you the drama and the action through what has been a fairly dramatic race, that's for sure. As the Super GT cars, 3 of them here on track with DTM. And Jenson Button and Ronnie Quintarelli currently running P16 and P17, but that will become P14 and P15 when Green and Eriksson finally do come in. And there is Nico Müller getting past Ronnie Quintarelli, who did a very good job of keeping out of the way then, didn't he? He certainly didn't hold him up.
We have that a lot in Super GT, so yeah.
Very gentlemanly. And there is Danny Junkadea, who, hello Daniel. He's a great fun guy as well. He is Danny Junkadea. Sadly, who's out of the race because he's car appeared to catch fire. So I'm beginning to wonder here whether Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson are going to run right to the end of the race before they come in for their mandatory stop. Who knows? We will see, because they're certainly not coming in on this lap. And there you can see Jamie Green, the British star, who's taken one race win this season. And that win came in the second race at the Nürburgring as he navigates his way around the hairpin now and heads down towards turn number 7 off the back of turn number 6, turn 7, which generally speaking you take absolutely flat before heavy braking before turn number 8, the left-hander into the stadium section of the circuit here at Hockenheim. And there is Nico Müller, who accelerates down now towards turn 7. Runs just a little bit wide and still so much spray coming off their cars. And Paul de Resta, another one of those drivers that's out of the race and, well, sits there and can only contemplate, Amy, what might have been.
Yeah, shame.
It is a shame. So, is it this time for Jamie Green? Absolutely not. And there is Nico Müller. So the gap from Green to Müller is, 18 seconds. So Jamie Green, 22, between Jamie Green and Nico Müller. There is Nico Müller. And then Kazuhiro Kojima. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Wow.
Kojima-san.
Just make a tick here as a house point for Dave. On board with Jenson Button then for the Honda NSX GT.
You know what, this is amazing because in the Super GT series we don't have the onboard cameras yet. So I think it's not only the teams and the machines learning, it's also, you know, the association learning that maybe we should introduce the onboard live onboard system because this is amazing. I've never seen Jenson's onboard live for the Super GT series. And it's interesting because the sound is so different than the ones of the DTM, obviously. And yeah, that is cool from my language.
Where it's great to watch those is you have the brake bias wheel in the middle of the car, and you can actually see during the course of a dry race, you know, the drivers adjusting the brake bias as they're doing it, and you can see what a difference it makes. So
truly,
you're
yes,
absolutely right. That onboard, that live onboard is such a brilliant feature to be able to bring to our program. So there is car number 53, Jamie Green, who's 3 seconds ahead of Joel Eriksson. Jamie Green 21 ahead of Nico Müller, as you can see. And Audi Sport Team Rosberg are, they just look like they might be getting ready for Jamie Green to come in. And we are anticipating that when they do come in, that they're going to emerge between Robin Freins and Jake Dennis. So in that P7-8 position at the moment, but that will become P6, P7, and there is Nick Cassidy. Unfortunately, all he can do now is watch from the monitors, Amy.
So these two, they're at the same age, 25, and they made it champion 2 years ago in Super GT, so they were the youngest champions in history.
Fantastic achievement, wasn't it?
And I mean, Nick Cassidy, he's still fighting for the championship at Super Formula and the Super GT this year, so...
Which is amazing, because they're two very different cars.
I know, so... It's so sad to see him, you know, get off the race that quickly. So. Well, I mean, such things happen.
They do. Fastest lap now comes from René Rast, a 1:52.5. So he's got the get-go. We're into the final 12 minutes of the race. So we're talking about Nick Cassidy there, who was always a good single-seater racer, I recall, in FIA Formula 3.
Obviously,
he was a good, very good driver, and he's one of those drivers, Amy, that we say, or I say, you could put him in a wheelbarrow on a racing track and he could still win a race.
True. Yeah.
Of course, he's also raced in New Zealand and the Toyota Racing Series as well, is that? Yes, absolutely.
It was.
So he's done a lot of racing in your part of the world as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And do you think, Amy, that helps in terms of the whole cultural thing and the way you race?
So I really do think so. In the first few years, he did actually not live in Japan, but then he moved, and now he's really like rootin' into Japan.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
I was talking to Lucas Howe the other day. In fact, Lucas Howe was with me on the air, and I'm pretty sure he lives in Tokyo now.
He does live in Tokyo.
There you go. Another little tick there in my tick box. So,
yeah, he was there yesterday, right?
Yes,
He's
yes.
here in the track.
Yeah, Luki Hour, great guy he is, great guy. So, Mike Rockenfeller we're watching right now, running in P4, but of course that is P2 when Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson do come in for their mandatory stop. We've got 10 minutes plus a lap left in the race. And a race that, well, the start was really rather more dramatic than the rest of the race has been in terms of stoppages and a safety car out and cars on fire and damage and all sorts in these really, really difficult race conditions that the drivers are having to contend with on this, the final race weekend in Europe for DTM. But of course, it's not all over for DTM, as we will be heading out to Fuji in November for that dream race between DTM and Super GT, and this providing a really nice precursor for that, with 3 of the Super GT cars racing here this weekend as well. Sadly, only 2 of them are out on the track at the moment. They are in the hands of Jenson Button and also Ronnie Quintarelli, as we're watching René Rast now, who's really upped his pace somewhat. And look at this. Audi Sport Team Rosberg, I would suggest to you, are preparing to bring Jamie Green in. So there you can see the excess water being wiped away from the pit box area, and of course they will have made note of the fact that earlier on they saw one of those mechanics slipping over, which cost a couple of seconds. So they're trying to prevent that. They have shoe warmers, perhaps. So Jamie Green then, who is 22, nearly 23 seconds ahead of Nico Müller, and doesn't come in on this lap, leading the race. Here comes Jamie Green to break the time beam now. And his last lap, a 1:53.2. Now, Joel Eriksson with a 1:52.7 has taken a little bit out of the Jamie Green gap, some 3/10. Now, René Rast is another driver that's running in the 52s as well, so good steady pace on the now aging tyres, because you can see exactly when and on what lap the drivers came in for their mandatory stop. And there Jamie Green around the Parabolica. So at this point, as we watch Jamie Green, Amy, I know that you've got to head back down towards the grid, because you will be conducting interviews post-race for your host broadcasters back in Japan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being up here.
No, thank you for having me here. It was great honor, really.
No, not at all, not at all. And I so look forward to working with you in Fuji when we're there in November.
Yes. As well, yes.
Thanks so much, Amy. You wend your way down there and have a safe trip back down. And if you can get down onto the track as quick as you made it up here on your way down, you'll be doing very, very well indeed. Well done, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to speaking to you on the air once again in Fuji.
Yes, let's see you guys at Fuji Speedway.
Looking forward. Thanks so much, Amy, who joined us in comms. Really grateful to her as we watch Timo Glock now. Timo Glock, 152s. René Rast just did quickest first sector of anyone. So René Rast has really upped his pace as well. So really good driving coming from René Rast now. He's beginning to chase down Mike Rockenfeller. So this will be a fight that will be on for P2 in the race, because Nico Müller is up the road by a huge margin. And with only 6.5 minutes left, well, it's reaching the crunch point in the final race of DTM here in Europe for 2019. So Timo Glock then we continue to watch. Green and Eriksson still staying out there. And here is René Rast. So Rocky then responding with the fastest lap of the race, 1:52.014. And Jamie Green making his way past the backmarking Jenson Button car. Rast, though, does his personal best as well, so lots of changes going on with regards to the time, and Talking of time, we've got 5.5 minutes plus a lap remaining in this DTM race here at Hockenheim in what have been truly rotten weather conditions. The drivers have had to contend with for the entire race duration, which of course was shortened following the red flag and the race suspension because of the Danny Kadea car, and also the stricken Nick Cassidy car and Paul di Resta another retirement. And here is Jamie Green then continuing to lead the race around the banked part of the Sachs turn, which is turn number 12 here. And then with one more turn to do before he heads towards the timing line, as once again Green does not come in. So we are thinking if everything goes well for the Green pit stop, when it does happen, he'll be very close to Robin Freins when he stops. So let's see. 4.5 minutes. It's got to be the next lap or the one after, I would think, and it could be a P6 or P7 finish potentially for Jamie Green. Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson, the two cars that have not yet stopped. Everyone else has. So Jamie Green from Joel Eriksson, Audi, BMW, but in real terms, it is Nico Müller from Mike Rockenfeller, then it's René Rast and Timo Glock and Robin Freins and Jake Dennis and Bruno Spengler and Loic Duval and Ferdinand Habsburg. A very good showing for Ferdinand Habsburg. Around the hairpin goes Jamie Green, the British star. So just checking out the timing screen here, there is 41 seconds between Jamie Green and Robin Freins, so it's right on the cusp now. But of course Jamie Green would return on tyres which were cold, but he's just got to stick his elbows out and try and make the car as wide as possible when he does return. Here is Nico Müller then, who is effectively the real leader of the race. And there you can see preparations going on to receive both Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson into the pit lane. Nico Müller then. And here is Jamie Green. Is it going to be this lap that Jamie Green comes in? He rounds turn number 15 now. Will he head for the pit lane? No, he won't. It's got to be the next one. And Joel Eriksson doing exactly the same. And basically what he's doing here is strategically making sure he stops as late as he possibly can, so then he will have as little time as possible to have to defend that tyre, that position that he will retake on the track, and therefore have as little time as possible on those cold tyres. So they'll be gearing up for a fight with Freins and potentially Dennis. And here they come then, Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson onto the Parabolica. The gap between Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson, 4.2 seconds. Here is Nico Müller. So Nico Müller is P3, but actually P1. And there you can see the gap between Jamie Green and Nico Müller. And Green to Robin Freins now is 42 seconds. So we're thinking it is going to be this lap that Jamie Green will come in. So Nico Müller makes his way through and around the Parabolica. And Jamie Green is now entering the Sachs Arena then. So into turn number 12 now goes Jamie Green. So all eyes on the all-orange car of number 53, engineered by the Audi Sport Team Rosberg squad. Bounces across the curbs. Is it going to be this one that Jamie turns into the pit lane? No. So Jamie stays out. Will Joel come in? No. So both Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson stay out. Well, there's no question as to when they'll come in now, because it's got to be the next lap. Got to be. Because we've got 40 seconds left on the clock plus a lap. That is when they've got to come out. And therefore, it's going to be a real dash on the final lap for the likes of Robin Freins and Jake Dennis and Bruno Spengler in terms of the fight between them as they're returning out onto the track. Here you can see the engineers getting ready then to receive Jamie Green in. So he has the remainder of this lap to complete before he will come in. There is Jamie Green now. And Joel Eriksson, who's taken a 10th out of Jamie Green when they crossed the last sector line. So the clock has counted down to 0 now. Of course, effectively, Jamie Green is the race leader, so the +1 lap. So Jamie Green then 4.1 seconds ahead of Joel Eriksson. There is Pietro Fittipaldi. And Jamie Green once again then into the Serena section. And Joel Eriksson also. So we're standing by now as Green bounces across the curbs. And no question about it, as the back end twitches, he comes into the pit lane, slows the car down to the pit lane speed limit.
Jamie, pit lane.
Okay, we'll get scrub tires, high pressures, and we fight for P5 virtually. Push to pass available.
How many laps?
So Jamie stops millimetrically perfectly on his marks. And this is going to be the last lap.
Last lap, just one more lap.
Out goes Jamie Green. There is Nico Muller, so they're saying going to be fighting with Glock potentially. There goes Rast going through. Sure enough, Jamie Green is out ahead of Timo Glock. So what he's got to try and do is make the car as wide as possible. He will be on cold tyres. Timo Glock's tyres up to temperature. You can see the back end of the Jamie Green car really skittish. And he's going to be defenseless, surely, on the parabolica to Timo Glock. Jamie will do everything he can. And you can see that Jamie Green has got the inside line, Timo Glock on the outside, although we can see nothing because of the spray. Now, as Jamie tries to slow the car down, he makes it as wide as possible. Timo will now try and come underneath the Jamie Green car, and he should have better traction out of the turn. However, this is brilliant driving from Jamie Green on less than optimal tyres, but in the end, he is defenseless against Timo Glock. So Timo does go through. But Jamie Green is, of course, still ahead of the car of Robin Freins, as is Joel Eriksson at this stage. But this is the real race leader, Nico Muller, who has got the backmarking Jenson Button Honda car ahead of him. But Nico Muller, he may not have won the championship, but he wins the final race of the season as he heads towards the checkered flag. Nico Muller wins.
Yes, Nico, perfect end of the season. Be careful, there will be the safety cars, exit turn 1. Perfect day, perfect end of the season. And Lucy managed to finish every race of the year.
Mike Rockenfeller takes P2, René Rast P3, Timo Glock P4, Jamie Green P5, Joel Eriksson P6, who managed to stay ahead of Robin Freins. Wow, so much drama in that race. Thomas Biermeier from Abt Sportsline, very happy then. And Nico Muller, race winner from Mike Rockenfeller. And René Rast finishes his championship season in P3. One of Timo Glock's best finishes of the year as well to take P4. We should also mention Jake Dennis for taking P8. So all the cars then lined up behind the safety car. What a momentous weekend this has been. The DTM cars, the Super GT cars, the tens of thousands of race fans, the spectacle of DTM and Super GT together, and the anticipation of the dream race to come in Fuji. What a weekend, and what a weekend for this man as Nico Müller, with the fireworks erupting around him, takes the final win of the season. What a shot that is. And forgive us for showing it again, because it is something special. What a season for René Rast. His second title, 17 wins in 3 years. And that makes him, by our reckoning, the 6th most successful DTM racer of all time. There in the driver's standings, 322 points, ahead of Nico Müller on 250. What a wonderful sight that is. You heard the engineer say, be warned, the safety cars are going to join. And bring the cars around. And there, all the sites within the pit lane. And René Rast, of course, the DTM champion for 2019. And both Nico Müller and René Rast, I suspect, are really rather going to put something of a show on here. Sure enough, as the back end of those cars pirouette in perfect symmetry. The donuts here at Hockenheim, with Timo Glock joining in the action as well. Brilliant to see. Absolutely love it. The drivers showboating, and quite rightly so. René Rast and Nico Müller then. What's René going to give away today? It was his boots and gloves yesterday. Joel Eriksson joining in the fun as well, and now making his way into the pit lane. So René Rast and Nico Müller there at turn 16, and the crowd saluting them. René makes his way off the car. And the fans salute the stars then of what has been an immense DTM season. René Rast, of course, the champion. Nico and René together were fighting hard throughout, and they make their way into the pit lane now. having showboated in front of the thousands of fans here at Hockenheim. And the fans applauding René and Nico. And Nico Müller parks up then, the winner of the final race of the season. And there is Nico Müller out of the car. And now back on top of it.
Für den Mann, der dann ganz am Ende auch der Vizemeister der Saison 2019 wird, Nico Müller, das Küsschen Richtung Mechaniker, Richtung Fans. Und jetzt geht es noch an die Arme, beziehungsweise der Förder kurz auf die Waage.
So the drivers have to be weighed before being headed up to the podium area. Lots of podium celebrations to take place, of course, this afternoon with of course, the race win trophies, but also the championship trophy to be handed over as well.
Nicht nur die Fahrer, natürlich vor allem die Mechaniker und Ingenieure haben da Wochen ununterbrochen lang dran gearbeitet, kaum Pausen gehabt. Dazu sieht man noch den ganzen Entwicklungswinter, also die werden jetzt.
So confirmation of the result then, Nico Müller taking the win from Mike Rockefeller and René Rast. Ahead of Timo Glock and Jamie Green and Joel Eriksson and Robin Freins. Jake Dennis for P8, then it was Bruno Spengler, P9, Loic Duval, P10. Ferdinand Habsburg taking P11 in this, the final race of the weekend. And final race of the season, Marco Wittmann P12, Sheldon van der Linde P13, then it was Philipp Eng and Pietro Fittipaldi, Jenson Button, Ronnie Quintarelli, Jonathan Aberdeen, of course we lost Paul de Resta, Danny Ucadea and Nick Cassidy. So the celebrations going on down there. Nico Müller. And heading off up towards the podium now. So just a few steps up to the podium for Nico Müller. The passion, the spectacle, the glory. Thank you from DTM. What a season it has been. For this man, especially. René Rast, of course, champion. There's Mike Rockefeller and Nico Müller. Lots of congratulations being offered to Nico Müller. And Thomas Biermeier, team chief of Abt Sportsline. Here comes the race winner then onto the top step of the podium. It's Nico Müller. Mike Rockefeller takes P2 when you consider he'd got a 5-place grid drop right at the start of the race. Should have been on pole position. Still manages to get a P2 podium out of it. And P3 for the champion, René Rast. Well, rounds out a fantastic year for Audi.
Das Vorgehen, nachdem die Fahrer oben stehen, gibt es natürlich zu Ehren des Siegers, zu Ehren Nico Müllers, die Schweizer Hymne.
Anthem plays out for Nico Müller. P1, Mike Rockenfeller P2, René Rast P3.
Ein ehemaliger deutscher Nationaltorwart mit der Trophäe für Nico Müller, den Sieger.
Mr. Timo Hildebrand then, the former German international player, then making the trophy presentation to Nico Müller, who certainly feels the roar. Timo Hildebrand then making the trophy presentation to the teams too. Abt Sportsline, the recipient of that really rather lovely trophy. Stefan Bradl from MotoGP making the second place trophy presentation then to Mike Rockenfeller. And Markus Ziedler, the mayor of Hockenheim, making the trophy presentation to René Rast for taking P3 in the race.
Und wenn die Fotografen auch glücklich sind, dann schreiten wir fort zum Highlight der Saison. Aber dazu später wieder. Jetzt erstmal das Foto und dann würde ich sagen, die Offiziellen können langsam abtreten, weil da unten wird es gleich feuchtfröhlich.
So the trophies presented for the race then, and time for the champagne to be unleashed. And there you can see the championship trophy being hung at the moment, because it will be delivered by Lukas Ermler, the professional slackliner. For nearly 13 years has been slacklining, and 5 Guinness World Records amongst others. Longest slackline in the world at 2 kilometers, or a blind walk. So there, the DTM Championship trophy being delivered in a really unique way by slackline here at Hockenheim. What a way to deliver that trophy. Whoa, in front of tens of thousands of fans here at Hockenheim. A supreme and unique way of doing so. And here comes the trophy. Perhaps not with quite so much elegance as Lukas Ermler then. And the podium is delivered, completely undamaged. And there you can see champion 2019, René Rast, is engraved on that really awesome trophy. Now, it has got a bit wet on the journey, unfortunately.
Dazu aber gleich mehr. Der Pokal ist angeliefert und ich guck mal, frag mal die Offiziellen, sind wir dann soweit, können wir dann langsam weitermachen? Es scheint so, als wären alle hier.
And what an extraordinary way for that trophy to be delivered here at Hockenheim.
Ja, dann würde ich mal fast sagen.
So the championship podium still to come, and everyone standing by for that to celebrate the And there is Jamie Green, who finished the race P5. Hello, Jamie. Leaving the mandatory pit stop to the very last minute. And to the very left-hand side of the picture there is Stefan Moser. And there, of course, is a very, very happy team principal. So we just await everything to be orchestrated for the championship podium.
Stellvertretend für Audi, der Technikvorstand auf dem Podium. Man hat die Herstellerwertung gewonnen.
Celebrities by the dozen here at Hockenheim this weekend.
Stellvertretend für die Marke aus
Thomas Biermeier from Amp Sportsline. Arno Sensen.
Gesichert, zumindest was die Teammeisterschaft angeht. Über die andere reden wir später. Und wir haben auf dem Podium stellvertretend für das Audi Sportteam Rosberg natürlich den Chef Arno Sensen. Herzlichen Glückwunsch.
Arno Sensen then.
Auf den letzten Metern ist noch eine
team effort always. He heads the team. And
in der Wertung der DTM-Saison 2019 ist der drittplatzierte Marco Wittmann im BMW. Herzlichen Glückwunsch.
Marco Wittmann then makes his way to the championship podium. He's been on the top step twice. But on this occasion, it's step number 3 for Marco Wittmann. P3 in the Drivers' Championship. P2 to Nico Müller.
Am Nürburgring konnte er es kaum glauben, als ihn geguckt hat, dass er vorzeitig Champion ist. Und der Neue und der schon mal 2017 war, DTM Champion, heißt 2019 René Rast.
The 2019 DTM Champion René Rast. On the top step of the podium. Offers handshakes and congratulations to those that have challenged him all season long, but the man who has delivered is on the top step, René Rast.
Aber die nächsten Momente, die wird er richtig auskosten. Jetzt gibt's nämlich zu Ehren des neuen Champions, zu Ehren von René Rast, die deutsche Nationalhymne.
So the anthem plays out for René Rast on the top step of the podium, P1 in the DTM Championship for 2019.
Fangen wir mit dem Pokal für den besten Hersteller der jetzt vergangenen Saison 2019 an. Und zwar aus den Händen des zweifachen Formel 1 Weltmeisters.
Mr. Emerson Fittipaldi then, who two-time Formula One champion, is going to make the DTM manufacturers trophy presentation. They're big trophies, as you would expect, and that of course goes to Audi. Emerson Fittipaldi making that trophy presentation. DTM champions 2019. Next up, it'll be the team's trophy for the championship for 2019. Bernd Schneider is here, 5-time DTM champion, making that trophy presentation.
Audi Sport Team Rosberg.
Audi Sport Team Rosberg's team principal. Steady on, Arno. And then, of course, the 1, 2, 3 in terms of the championship for 2019 to be presented. Jochen Mass, who's been here all weekend, makes the third place trophy presentation to Marco Wittmann. It's going to be down to Bernd Schneider to present P2 to Nico Müller. Well done, Nico. Second place in DTM for 2019 as Dieter Gas smiles and looks on. So there is one trophy to be done. And that, of course, is for the DTM champion for 2019. As Mr. Emerson Fittipaldi, the two-time Formula One champion, makes the trophy presentation to our champion in DTM, René Rast. So the trophies presented then for manufacturer, for teams, and also for the championship. And all those in receipt of trophies will join together on, as near as they can do it, to the top step of the podium for the photographs to be taken, along with our trophy presenters as well, Bernd Schneider and Jochen Mass and Emerson Fittipaldi. What a great shot that is. And then, of course, the carbon champagne will be released.
In der aktuellen DTM-Saison. Ja, das war's. Bernd Schneider weiß was. Jetzt kommt der rennt schon mal ein bisschen. Und ich würde sagen, ihr habt es euch redlich verdient. Passt auf, dass die Pokale nicht kaputt gehen. Aber, Gentlemen, let the champagne spray for 2019. One more time.
And the champagne is sprayed on the championship podium. Lots of people, very wet, having been soaked in champagne in celebration. Nico Müller getting a load from René then. Nico Müller, who chased him throughout the season towards that championship. René Rast was victorious, having done a supreme job. Standings after 18 of 18 races. René Rast then on 322 points, a real commanding performance over Nico Müller on 250 and Marco Wittmann on 202 points. That's the way the championship rounds out, but of course we're still heading to Fuji for that fantastic dream race in November with DTM and Super GT, and Super GT have been so much part of our weekend here as well this weekend. So that's the DTM race action is not over for the year, that's for sure. Team standings after the 18 races then. Audi Sport Team Rosberg on 448 points, finishing the season 40 points ahead of Audi Sport Team Abt Sports Line. So, there we have it. Let's hear from the champion as we say bye-bye for 2019. Verena is with René Rast.
So here he is, the DTM champ 2019. Congratulations, René. How does it feel right now?
It's an amazing feeling. I mean, we celebrated already at the Nürburgring quite a lot. But I think today it's going to be even better party on this night. So looking forward to it, and obviously big thanks to the whole team, DTM fans, the whole organization. So it has been a great year, and looking forward for next year to come back.
So are we. Thank you so much. Congratulations. And yeah, guys, that was it. The DTM season 2019. Of course, we still got the dream race in Fuji coming up in November. But from now, that's it. And here are the highlights. So enjoy and see you in Fuji and then next year for the new season. Bye-bye.
Der Team-Champion steht auf dem Pokal, hat
No grip, zero. What the fuck?